Maybe you've been putting something off that you wanted to get started on. Maybe you've been afraid to finally do something that you think other people might need, or something that you really want to do. I think the real thing is to just do it. I think I've put off for a long time doing things, making content, whatever it is, because I feel like a better opportunity, a better time will come along, when I'm more prepared, when I'm more ready. But that's just kind of an excuse to stay where you are. When you could just be taking steps, and learning along the way. Best way to learn something is to actually get hands-on and go through with it, actually make new experiences. And I think that's something I struggle with a lot. I'm definitely a risk-averse person, so I don't really like putting myself out there. I don't really like taking chances. I'm someone who plays it safe a lot of the time, and it can only get me so far. Whatever you take away from this video, I hope that it's helpful in some way. So I'm sure not everyone watching this is gonna be a religious person, but I would say for me at least, I think faith has definitely helped my journey in a lot of things. I'm talking about how to help loneliness. I think a big part of that for me was faith. God out there that cares about you is constantly with you. I think that's an important thing to remember. It helps me, right, at the end of the day. All the self-help stuff, I think that's important. I think self-help is, they turn self-help into something that you can buy, right? Something that you can buy my self-help books, buy my program. But I think it's less so about that. It should, at its core, it should be about helping people. It shouldn't be something like, how can this benefit me, right? Don't get me wrong, right? I think everybody, as the world functions, everybody needs to provide for themselves somehow. But I think self-help has become very predatory recently, where I'm not someone who bought any self-help material. I watched a few self-help videos here and there, when it was kind of coming up and becoming big. But I didn't need to I think the trap that you could fall into with self-help is relying on someone else too much to do the work that you have to do for yourself. People want to have a book. They want to get given the answers right away. Just you have to do this, this, and this, and follow this to be successful. Follow this to to be like me, or whatever it is, whatever the person's advertising. But at the end of the day, no matter how many books you have, no matter how many videos you watch, at the end of the day, it's determined on how much work you put in for yourself. I think that's most important. Even if you're not doing the optimal way, even if it's not the most efficient way, I think you're obviously you're gonna get more done, you're gonna learn more just doing for yourself, actual tangible things, rather than listening to someone tell you how to do things, right? If you never put it into action, you spend hours consuming how things should be done, and you never actually go into practice, then I think that's a lot of that's a big mistake I think people fall into. or people, I think overvalue that. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but I think there's just a lot that we can do for ourselves. I think that's the most important thing. Though I think like one thing I will say that cannot be replaced is actually faith. I think that's something that you can't really replace with anything else, because I think it's outside of even our ability, outside of our own understanding, like our own power, basically. You know, because like there's only so much that we can do, so much that you can do, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot. You know, um, but there's also things that we can't do. We have to rely on on the help of God, I think. Well, I know, but you know, I think like it can't be underestimated how much that helps too. I think that's a big thing. If you need to get something off your chest, if you want to like, if there's something like that you need to talk about, I don't think I think it's helpful to put it out there, you know, like whether it's recording it, talking to somebody, writing it in a diary, do whatever. But like, someone out there might need to hear it just as much as you do, right? Found a cool little snail shell like in this like fence right here. I don't know how it ended up there, but it's kind of cool.